Namaskar. Welcome to this session. We have considered the means of Kaivalya called Hanopaya, and with that we completed the Chaturvyuha consideration. But here is a supplement to it. The means of liberation is Aviplavaviveka Khya. And Aviplava, we were going by literal meanings of it so far, such as uninterrupted Viveka Khya, constant Viveka Khya, unfading Viveka Khya. But then how long that Viveka Khya should be staying? Is the yogi going to remain eternally in Viveka Khya, and is that the Kaivalyam? No, it is not that way. Now Patanjali makes it clear here. What is this Aviplavaviveka Khya? What is implied? And not just literal meaning, aviplavita, without viplava, without obstruction. That is the literal meaning. But then what is the technical meaning? That comes in the Sutra 2.27. So the Sutra is Tasya Saptadha Pra Pragn. That Viveka Khya, which has been described in the previous Sutra, that Viveka Khya has Tasya Saptadha Pra Saptadha, something of the kind of seven. What is seven? Is it seven-cornered Viveka Khya? Or is it of seven aspects and seven facets? What is it? So, Saptadha Pranta Bhumi, Pranta, Prakarshena Antaha, culminative phase. So, there are seven aspects of Prajna which reach culminative point. So Viveka Khya is one Prajna. Prajna is one, but when it has Saptadha Pranta Bhumi, that is Aviplavita Viveka Khya. So now comes the technical meaning. It is not that it is unfading, constant, unobstructed, undiminished, complete, full bloom Viveka Khya, but it has Saptadha Pranta Bhumi. This is what Patanjali is mentioning. So, the sutra has the first word called Tasya. Tasya refers to not the yogi, but the Viveka Khya. Not the yogi who has the Viveka Khya, but very Viveka Khya. And in this Viveka Khya, there is Saptadha Pranta Bhumi. That means there are, say, seven-cornered or seven facets, seven aspects, which reach Pranta Bhumi, Prakarshena Antaha. Yasya. So, reaching the culminative phase of the seven aspects. So, that is what is this Aviplavita Viveka Khya. So, in Bhikshu's interpretation and Vajaspati Mishra's interpretation, we need to look into it. Whether this is seven phases of attaining this Viveka Khya or what? What is it? What is Saptadha? So this question gets appraisal if we look into the commentary of Vijnana Bhikshu, Vachaspati Mishra, and even Harihararanda Aranyam. Now the previous sutra mentioned about the Aviplavaviveka Khya. So whether it has 7 planes, 7 Bhumis, or is it the yogi who attains it, whether he has whether the Tasya is with reference to yogi or reference to Vivekakhya. Bhikshu here says his opinion is that Vivekakhya itself has 7 bhumis, 7 planes. Because in the previous sutra what was discussed was Vivekakhya and not the yogi. So yogi's Prajna has 7 bhumis. And the yogi has 7 bhumis are two doubts which come in the minds of readers. The grammarians tell us that the word Tasya is Pullingi word, that is of masculine gender, and Prajna is feminine gender, and therefore a grammatical problem comes up here. But Vyasa has clearly mentioned, he says, Tasyeti pratyuditakhyatehe pratyamnaya. That is, the Tasya word is with reference to Udita-khyati, Pratyudita-khyati, the rise of the khyati, and that is being considered here. While Bhikshu says, by word Tasya, what is being considered is the Purvokta Vivekakhyati. The previous sutra mentioned Vivekakhyati and not the yogi. Because previous sutra is not referring to a yogi, it is referring to the khyati. So, Vartikar Bhikshu says, Nacha atra pratyutpanna khyate purushasya paramarsha ityartha. So, the commentators on Vyasa have brought us to a point where some kind of discussion can be taking place. Vachaspati Mishra says, Pratyudita khyate vartamana khyate yogina pratyamnaya paramarshaha. While Vachaspati Mishra says, with the help of the grammatical interpretation, by Tasya, what is to be taken is Hanopaya Rupa Vivekakhyati, but the Vivekakhyati is a Prajna, and the Prajna itself has Saptadha Pranta Bhumi. And therefore, who is or what is being considered is Vivekakhyati Prapta Yogi is being considered. And he says, Bhashakar also is going to say immediately, Prajna Vivekino Bhavati. Vivekinaha is yogi. So this kind of little grammatical tussle has got raised up here. Anyway, but the the purport of the sutra doesn't really get influenced, whether you say it is with reference to Yogi who has got it, or whether it is reference to what the Yogi has got it. That is not a major problem to be considered. Anyway, now it is to be understood here the relationship between Atma and Jnanam. The relationship between Atma and Jnanam is of the nature of relationship called aprathak siddha sambandham in philosophical discussions. So, what is this aprathak siddha sambandha, inseparable relationship? It is like that between a lamp and a light. Whether the lamp has light or lamp itself is light. The lamp and light have such a relationship. You can't say there is a light or there is a lamp but the light is not there. So what is the difference between the lamp and its light? That kind of relationship is called aprathak siddha sambandham, that is inseparable relationship. So it's a technical kind of argumentation that has got risen here. Now, therefore, we have to understand that the plane of Vivekakhya and the plane of Yogi who has got it cannot be two different things. The plane of Vivekakhya and the plane of the Yogi who has got it cannot be two different planes, like the relationship between the lamp and the light. So you cannot have a condition that the Vivekakhya is of higher caliber and the Yogi is of a lower caliber, or Yogi is of another caliber. This doesn't happen. But it is interesting to take note of one fact here. In Bauddhika Jnanam, in the Bauddhika Jnanam, that is the empirical knowledge that we have, you and me commoners have, there can be two planes. People are seen to be having a higher plane of knowledge with lower plane of conduct. Our conduct doesn't necessarily commensurate with our knowledge. We can be very knowledgeable, but we need not be in that plane. We can behave stupidly and the knowledge can be higher than we people who possess it. This is what happens to empirical knowledge. Therefore, it doesn't commensurate. The person and his knowledge doesn't commensurate. The person has unbelievable character or conduct which doesn't at all correspond to knowledge that the person has. Highly qualified people many times behave worse than lowly qualified people or even illiterate people. So this is what happens to us, that we might be in one plane, but our knowledge can be in another plane. But the reference is here to Khyati. This is also a point to be taken note of, and earlier we had discussed difference between Viveka Jnanam and Viveka Khyati. This is not Jnanam. Viveka Khyati, that is mentioned as the means for liberation, is not Jnanam. So Anyway, this Vivekakhya discussion doesn't have a problem as the case would be in case of Jnanam, which just now I explained you. That person can be very knowledgeable, might be behaving as if very stupid, or the conduct doesn't commensurate with the knowledge or wisdom the person has. So we need to have also little distinction between Jnanam and Khyati, and there are no English words for the two. Discriminate discernment is also Jnana, and then other things are also Jnana. Any other knowledge is knowledge, and this too is knowledge. So, in philosophical system and in Yogi, Patanjali's philosophy, Jnanam and Khyati are two terms which have occurred. You will see that you will come across Viveka Jnanam as well as Viveka Khyati in Patanjali's treatise. So the distinction must be discerned, and here the reference is to Khyati, and therefore it doesn't happen that Yogi is on one plane and his Viveka Khyati is on another plane. This doesn't at all happen. Anyway, what is implicit difference in Khyati and Jnanam has been attempted to become explicit here. And therefore, that polemic that came up between Bhikshu and Vachaspati Mishra is to be also justified. It is not just argument for the sake of argument. We need to see difference between Jnanam and Khyati. And then the Sutrastha term, Pranta Bhumi, is a predicate to that Prajna, is a predication to the Prajna that Yogi has got it. So what is this Pranta Bhumi? Prakrushta, Utkrushtha, Antakoti, Yasam, Bhuminam, Avasthanam, Taha. This is etymological meaning of Pranta. So, the Pranta, as is in common man's parlance, a region, a location, it is nothing of that kind. It is not a region. Pranta is not a region or location. Prakrushta, Utkrushtha, Antah, Kotihi, Yasam, Bhuminam, Avasthanam, Taha, Prantaha, Pranta Bhumihi. So that's how the word Pranta Bhumi has been used by Patanjali, which is very interesting term. So Prakrushta is something much more than Utkrushta. Utkrushta means the best, and this is something much more than that. Antaha means the terminal apex point. So there are 7 aspects which are reaching culminative points, culminative position in Saptadha Pranta Bhumi. So it can be taken as Sapta seven cornered, 7 aspects which reach the pinnacle point. And that is Prakrushta Utkrushta Bhumi. Now these are not 7 steps or 7 planes of Vivekakhya, like first Bhumi, then second Bhumi, then third Bhumi, then fourth Bhumi, then fifth, and then sixth, and then seventh. So there are no such 7 planes. These are not staircase having 7 steps. So if it is to be diagrammatically seen, it should not be depicted as 7 steps, that you climb up the 7 steps and you reach the pinnacle point. That is not how the meaning is here. But Viveka Khyati having 7 rays reaching culminating point. Saptamukhi, 7-headed, 7-faced, and each of the face reaching Pranta Bhumi. That is how the meaning is to be taken. So, to comprehend this Saptadha Pranta Bhumi, for the convenience of the students, it can be said it's like a sun having 7 rays. So a disk, which is the sun, and that is Aviplavaviveka Khya, and then it has 7 rays, and these 7 rays reach culminative point. These are 7 insights. These are 7 insights, because Viveka Khya, which is a deep insight, so it should be looked at as an insight. And there are 7 insights, and this is how it has to be understood. Now, the question comes as to what are these 7 insights? So what are these 7? They are to be deciphered. So, in our knowledge process, the rays go outwards and get us the worldly knowledge. But in yoga, it is to be going inwardly. And therefore, the rays are going inwardly. Because Viveka Khyati is insight, and Aviplavaviveka Khya is the deepmost insight. Now, the question can be raised, why it should be 7? Because 7 is not the last number. Can it not be more than 7? 8, 9, 10, 100, 200, 500, 1000, 5000, 10,000. Why it should be 7? And why it should not be less than 7? What is with number 7? Can it not be 6, Shatadha, Panchadha, or cannot be Dashadha? Can it not be more than 7 or less than 7? What is really here considered to mention it is Saptadha? The less than Saptadha will be incomplete, and more than Saptadha is not probable and possible because it is Pranta Bhumi. And here, to understand this, for us to have little understanding of the Viveka Khyati or this wisdom process, I would like to draw your attention to a verse from Bhagavad Gita 2.41. He says, Bhagavan says, Bhaushakhahi anantascha buddhaya avyavasayinam. When the intelligence is going in various directions, that is a distraction mind or distracted mind. And therefore that verse in Bhagavad Gita says, Vyavasayatmika buddhihi ekeha kurunandana. Bhaushakhahi anantascha buddhaya avyavasayinam. When the mind is of avyavasayin, that is distracted mind, it goes in several directions. It is several worldly, several faced. But when it is vyavasayatmika buddhi, it is ekeha. It is single. So So here the mystic poets beautifully describe it. Now suppose you have a pot containing water. Now, if you make a small hole at the on the pot, body of the pot, then the flow of water would be going a long distance. But if you have several holes, more water will be spilled out of the pot, flowing out of the pot, but will not have long range. It won't have pressure. So, or the water might leak down, even leak out possibly with more holes in the pot. So for Vyavasayatmika Buddhi, when it is single-headed, and therefore the Buddhi would be having a long range, it would go a long distance, it would have greater grasp, greater reach. And that's how the knowledge process is, that if you have concentration, then you have better knowledge. If you have distracted intelligence, then you don't have the depth in knowledge. The knowledge becomes shallow. So why does it become shallow? Bhagavad Gita in 2.44 says, Bhogaishwaryai prasaktanam taya aparhuta chetasam vyavasayatmika buddhi samadhav na vidhiyate. If the buddhi is flowing in multiple directions, then it is defeated chitta. And that is the chitta of Bhogaishwarya Prasakta. Those who are interested in indulgence and enjoyments, it is their minds which are like this, or their intelligence, it is like this. But one which is going for satyanveshana, one which is truth seeking, the mind is single pointed. So that's how Bhagavad Gita explains this. So the point is, it cannot be more than 7 and less than 7. Now why? What is the magic of this number 7 here? That we will be shortly revealing, shortly understanding. So it all depends upon the mala in the chitta. If the chitta mala is there, then you won't be having this accomplishing Viveka Khyati. If the chitta mala is not there, then only it will be accomplishing kind of condition of Viveka Khyati. Anyway, Yoga Bhashyakara gives the clarity here. Saptadha iti ashuddha varnamalapagamāt chittasya pratyayantar anutpade sati sapta prakaraiva prajna vivekino bhavanti. So, with the Saptadha, what is to be understood? That there is complete, absolute malapagamanam, ashuddham, ashuddha malapagamanam. That the mala is completely gone with the 7 number here. And therefore, there won't be pratyantara. There would be anutpadanam. There would be unproduction of distraction. So that is how this Saptadha Pranta Bhumi Prajna is. Now we proceed on this. Bhashyakara has said that Ashuddhi Mala. Now this is to be understood as cosmic Rajatama Gunas. So Rajatama gunas are completely set aside, and therefore there won't be slightest viparjaya in the chitta, and it will be full bloom Vivekakhyati, fully blossomed Vivekakhyati and nothing else in the mind. So Sapta Prakara eva prajna vivekino bhavanti is what Bhashyakara has said here. Now we proceed to understand this aspect with the factor which we introduced earlier. Why not 4, why not 5, why not 6, why not 8, and why not 10, and why only 7? In those, in less than 7, it is to be understood that there is not accomplishment. There is lack of accomplishment when it is less than 7. And in more than 7, there is possibility of vikshepa coming up. Anekarthata. So that will be too much. More than 7 will be too much. And less than 7 will be too little. This is how we have to understand. Of course, we will come to know when we try to understand what are those 7. Why 7 here is accomplishment. Why 7 aspects are implying accomplishment. So now we proceed to understand what are these 7. And once you know what are these 7, you will know why 7 and why only 7 and why not less than 7 and more than 7. So now Vyasa goes on explaining. He slowly starts unfolding the Sapta Rahasya, the Rahasya, mysticism behind the 7 here. Tadyatha. What is the first one? Parignatam heyam na asya punaha parigneyam asti. This is the culminative revelation number 1. What is it? Parignatam heyam. All that is indeed heya, indeed avoidable, has been known, and nothing remains to be discovered, nothing remains to be explored. So that is the first Bhumi. So total realization of entire class of avoidable, and not even a slightest microscopic remainder there. Not even a microscopic remainder. That is the first culminative phase. Ashesha Nishesha Vishesha Jnanam of all that is heyam. And it is totally known. Parignatam. That to be known is totally known, absolutely, completely, thoroughly known. So that is the first aspect of Saptadha. So Vachaspati opens this out, the heyam, which is totally realized by this yogi. So that is described as Yavat kila pradhanika sarvam tat sarvam parinamataapa samskaraihi gunavrutti virodhat dukkham eveti tat parignatam. And this we have discussed in the 15th sutra, parinamataapa samskara dukkaihi gunavrutti virodhacha dukkham eva sarva vivekinaha. So the reference is to that. The entire parinamatapa dukkha, samskara dukkha and gunavrutti virodha kind of dukkha has been completely discerned, absolutely, completely discerned and realized. So it's a thorough microscopic report of dukkham. And of course these kind aspects of dukkha have been already discussed by us in that sutra. So Vachaspati makes it clear what is that parignatam heyam. Now let us come to second aspect of it. The second aspect is Kshina heya hetavoh na punah etesham kshetavayam asti. So what is it? They heya hetu, the cause of dukkham, not only that the sorrow has ended, but the cause of sorrow also has been absolutely ended. And we had considered this samyogam as the cause of heyam. So dukkha, the kshina heya hetavo, even the heya hetu has been totally neutralized. And now nothing needs to be neutralized, nothing needs to be destroyed, nothing needs to be set aside. So all that has to be set aside has been set aside, has been neutralized. And now nothing is remaining. Absolutely nothing is remaining. So this is the second nirnaya, second decision of Saptadha Pranta Bhumi. And in the second one, what is to be understood is drashtu drushya sanyogaha, because that is the heya hetu. So that heya hetu, the cause of conjunction, also has been neutralized. So Vartikar Vijnana Bhikshu makes it little more comprehensive by saying tatascha heya hetavo avidya kama karmadayo Viveka sakshatkarena mama kshina iti. So for a yogi, he realizes, I have really done the neutralization of heya hetu, which is avidya and the karmashaya. So avidya and karmashaya have been totally dismantled. The karma vasana is gone, klesha vasana is gone, kama vasana is gone, ajnana vasana is gone. Absolutely, completely, totally. So this is what is made clear by Vijnana Bhikshu. So this is about the second of the Saptadha Pranta Bhumi. Now, proceeding to the next. Na punaretesham kshetavayam asti. Now the third one is sakshakrutam nirodha samadhina hanam. What is the third one? The third one is that even the liberation, the moksha, the nirvana and kaivalya has been experienced. Because, this is what happens if we are going to visit somewhere for the first time, or if we are going to get experience of something for the first time, then there is a lot of turmoil in the mind, apprehension in the mind, anxiety in the mind. It may be this and it may be that kind of apprehension, etc. So there is a lot of commotion in the mind when you are going to be experiencing something for the very, very first time. Now this should not happen in the Kaivalya Prakriya. In liberation process, this should not happen. That you should not having any anxiety or angst or curiosity as to what it may be, what liberation may be, etc. And this, a preview of liberation is given to yogi. In a asampragnat samadhi, the last asampragnat samadhi gives him experience of Kaivalyam. So now he is not going to enter a new zone, he is not going to visit something new for the first time, although the moksha has not still happened. Before the moksha is to happen, there is a preview, premiere show kind of thing of liberation. So there won't be any kind of anxiety. Now that is so important here. And that is the third one. Sakshat Kritam Nirodha Samadhina Hanam. The yogi has this kind of surety in his mind. I have experienced Hanam. So that is what is the third aspect of Saptadha Pranta Bhumi. Now, this is experienced in a samadhi where we are described Tadadrashtuhu Swarupe Avasthanam in 1.3, Swarupratishtha Tadanim Chiti Shaktihi Yatha Kaivalye in 1.3 as per Vyasa. So this Kaivalyam is really experienced by yogi, and therefore when he is going to get liberation, it won't be a foreign experience for him. So these are the three bhumis. So we have yet to consider rest of the bhumis. So we have yet to proceed further, but enough for the time being. We will consider this in our next session, continue this topic in the next session. So namaskar all of you.